Hey, home health heroes. How are you? It's Amy Register here with my mom, Teresa Register, the home health mentor. I was reviewing her podcast notes this morning, and so I titled this Contract Mayhem because ah, if you don't do something, you may be in trouble. And I hate to start with like the sky is falling, but that's how I felt with reading your notes. Mom, take us into this topic today.
Okay. Um, so I decided to talk about this because there are some things going on in our country and in the world right now that some people may not understand could impact their business very seriously. Sometimes we get so focused on the daily challenges of running our businesses that we are not aware of what's going on in the broader business world and in our government. And so I'm a little concerned that some of the things that are happening right now could drastically affect our home health agencies.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I want to focus on today is some of the governmental changes that could impact the home health agency industry. You may have heard that President Biden wants to hire 87,000 additional IRS agents as part of his $80 billion spending plan to increase enforcement efforts.
Yeah, hold on right there. I don't know if most people like even would register or care about that, except that you're anytime you hear the IRS and you have a business, you should pay attention, right?
Yes, definitely. Um, Especially when this is going to essentially double the impact of the IRS in businesses. And when you realize that the majority of businesses in the United States are small businesses, sometimes we
Mhm.
might think, I'm too small for the IRS to worry about.
Mhm. Right.
That's not the case. And
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
share a little bit of information in a few minutes that hopefully will make it clear that small businesses are targets of the IRS.
Mhm.
So yeah, people need to take this to heart. On September 15th of this year, 2021, the IRS sent out a reminder saying that small business owners need to be sure that they correctly classify their workers as employees or independent contractors.
Mhm.
So, given the fact that Biden is proposing a drastic increase in the number of IRS agents, this should be considered a warning, not a friendly reminder.
Ooh.
It says they sent out a reminder. That should be considered a threat,
Mhm. All
not
right.
not just, hey guys, make sure you're doing this. They are putting out there a I don't want to call it a paper trail, but they are going to say, hey, we reminded you, and now we're going to fine you
Mhm.
for any infractions. So
Yep.
this should be taken very seriously. Generally, it is an employer who withholds and pays certain income taxes, Social Security, Medicare taxes, and unemployment taxes. Obviously, the IRS wants what they consider their due. And anytime that an employer misclassifies a worker as a contractor instead of an employee, they are taking on the liability of the taxes for that worker. So these two things that are happening are not just coincidental. They definitely are going to go together. So an increase in the number of IRS agents and this not so subtle warning to small businesses should be taken real seriously. The IRS doesn't play footsie. They don't put out a reminder for no good reason. They are putting all businesses, and small businesses in particular, on notice, saying, be sure that you are classifying your employees or your workers correctly, because they are going to scrutinize all businesses and they will look at small businesses.
Yeah, it's
So,
nice they sent the warning letter, but they know we don't open our mail. We're coming for you now, big boy.
yeah, most of us, like you said, most of us will hear, these kinds of things and just kind of go on with our daily routine because we don't really stop to think about the potential impact.
That's right.
So, so why am I talking about this today? Because I've been in this business for many years, 30 plus, 35 plus years. And so I have seen some history, and I thought I would share that with our listeners today. In the mid to late 80s, it was discovered that many businesses, including home health agencies, were entering into working relationships with individuals who claimed to be independent contractors. So many administrators were, looking at that option and thinking that it would be a good idea for both parties. So they didn't really look into the legalities or the definitions, and they just decided to contract with mostly therapists of one kind or another, because those therapists were needed for their business, but they didn't have necessarily enough business to keep them busy full time. So it seemed like a good arrangement. It was good for the therapists. They were able to maintain flexibility. They were able to claim some of the business deductions that go with being an independent contractor. Some of them even avoided paying their taxes, so their income went up. and so, everybody was happy for a while. The problem was that when the contractors failed to pay their income and or employment taxes that are required by the IRS, and the IRS discovered this, if they went back to the business arrangement and looked at it and said, you know what, this home health agency said this was a contractor, but they treated them like an employee, therefore we're going to say they're an employee. And since the contractor didn't pay their taxes, it's now going to fall on the home health agency to pay those taxes.
Like a woman scorned the IRS. Like, oh no, that's not how this works.
So this really does point out the responsibility of the home health agency or any business to make sure that they are aware of the differences between how the IRS classifies an independent contractor versus an employee. So the closer that person looks like an employee, the higher the likelihood that the IRS is going to consider them an employee, no matter if you have a signed contract or not. The IRS will override and say, no, you said they were a contractor, but they really weren't. They had a key to the agency. You had a mailbox for them. You told them how many times a week they needed to see the patient. You put protocols in place that told them how they had to treat the patient. These are employees. I don't care what you call them.
Right.
So since they didn't pay their taxes, now you have to pay their taxes, and you have fines and you have penalties. So as you can imagine, when that hit, it hit hard. And many small home health agencies in particular, and some large ones, went out of business almost overnight. And
Wow.
it sent a shockwave really through the industry.
Mhm.
What surprises me is when I went to look up some of the history of this happening, it's really hard to find anyone that is uh, addressing, that this could be a repeat of that history. People
Yeah.
have gotten a little bit complacent because because the IRS hasn't really come down hard on our industry in the past, but you can imagine if they're going to double the number of IRS agents. And the reason that Biden is saying that he wants to do this is because they need to enforce the laws. So I just want to put it out there and say, it's time for every business, but, of course, we're talking about home health. It's time for agencies to really look closely at what the IRS says is an independent contractor versus, what is an employee.
Mhm. Yeah, this could happen to you. You're probably gonna know somebody who this happens to. So,
It could happen. It
Mom,
could
you
happen.
mentioned a couple of things that are indicators that somebody is an employee versus a contractor. Will you take us through what the IRS says some of those are so that people can listen to this podcast and have some general idea? Of course, we want people to go through it with a fine tooth comb, but can you give us an overview?
Well, suffice it to say that they're going to look at how you treat your employees and how you treat your contractors. So, for example, if you have contractors and you supply their equipment, for example, or you provide education for them and you don't charge them anything for it. They're just, you let them, maybe you have a contract with a training company like Relias, and you allow them to do online training. If they participate in your social events, if, I can't give you an exact list, but what they're going to look at is, how do you treat contractors differently than you treat your employees?
Mhm.
The more you provide at no cost to your
Mhm.
contractors, um,
The
the
worse it looks for you.
the worse it looks for you. And again, that doesn't mean that you're always going to have to pay back taxes for these people, because if they're paying them, then then that threat goes away. But if they don't pay them, and I will tell you that I still think there's a lot of people out there that are just not paying attention to those contracts.
Yeah.
Um, then theoretically, it could come back on you. And it happened in the past. I'm concerned that people may not be paying attention to it, and it could happen again. So, what I will say is that the IRS does have a number of good references, good articles on how to classify your employees versus your contractors. And it would be good for you to go to irs.gov and put in contractors versus employees and read their guidance on that.
Read up on it. It would
Read
behoove you.
Definitely read up on it. You want to be sure that you're making it very clear. Another thing is, if you're giving your contractors an employee handbook and you're having them sign that they've received it, essentially you've just classified them as an employee. So one of the things that Amy, you know about, and some of the listeners probably know about, is that I have written a contractor handbook that goes through the differences and how the IRS classifies contractors versus employees, and how important it is for the agency to properly classify them. And then you want to make sure that the verbiage that you use whenever you're referring to your contractors, you want to make sure that it's clear that this is not an employment agreement. So there's some fine points here. Some agencies might want to get some legal counsel on this just to make sure that anything you are putting in writing makes it very clear that this is not an employment relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So the water gets a little muddy here. Part of my dilemma with this has always been that what home health agencies are required to do by the conditions of participation and by many of the accrediting organizations' requirements requires control of various kinds of things when it comes to providing direct patient care. And most of the contracts we're talking about are contracts with workers who provide direct services to the patients. So what the IRS uses is basically three types of control. They ask, does the company control or have the right to control what the worker does and how the worker does their job? Secondly, the financial control. Does the business direct or control the financial and business aspects of the worker's job? Are the business aspects of the worker's job controlled by the payer? Things like how the worker is paid, are expenses reimbursed, who provides tools, supplies, and I would include education in there.
Okay.
And then the relationship of the parties. Are there written contracts or employee type benefits that are given to contractors? Will the relationship continue, or is it time limited? And is the work performed by the contractor a key aspect of the business? So if you look at the list that the IRS looks at to determine if this person is an independent contractor or an employee, and you compare and contrast that with what the COPs and your accrediting organization require you to do as a home health agency, and, in terms of the care provided to patients, you might start to see that there are areas of potential conflict there.
Yes.
So it is a gray area. It has been in the past determined that professionals like physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, social workers, it has been determined in the past that those professionals can qualify as independent contractors. That doesn't mean that they automatically do qualify as independent contractors. So again, they may qualify, but the more you treat them like employees, the more threat, that could be to your business. So
I wonder what the IRS would think about if you provided education on how to pay the IRS your taxes as an independent contractor. I wonder if they'd be like down with that. Okay, let me play with contractor now.
I would say it would probably be in the same classification as any other education that's being provided. Oh, anyway, so yeah, there's considering, both sides of this. I guess the main point being that even though these professionals can qualify as independent contractors, you need to make sure that everything you put in writing, everything you provide, everything that you do shows that the independent contractors are treated differently than you treat your employees. And if you do that, and you do it consciously, you will be able to put up a defense.
Mm-hmm.
That said, sometimes it's not worth it.
Yeah, do you
Sometimes
even
it's not
want
very.
to?
What?
Do you even want to put up a defense? It's like, man,
Exactly.
it better be saving you a load of money
Of
on
money.
insurance or something, because this seems pretty tricky.
Yes, because litigation is not cheap. If you
Mm-hmm.
have to defend yourself against the IRS, chances are they're going to win. If nothing else, they'll beat you down.
Endless resources and endless vitriol is what I've heard.
Uh-huh. Yep.
They will come for you. And the thing with that is like, of course, yeah, it's not even the dollars either. It's your time that you had opportunity to do something else with. So, um,
Your
wow.
time, your anxiety, it beats you down anytime you're in any kind of a legal,
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah.
It's a threat and it's scary, and who wants to go through that? So,
So be
so yeah,
squeaky clean if you're gonna do it. We don't even wanna be baiting these guys into looking at your business, so.
exactly. I I think for me, that was my conclusion, that if at all possible, avoid having a contract with your direct care staff.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's a threat, in the sense that the IRS can come back on you as the provider of the services, as the business owner. But here's something that came up, that I didn't expect to see, but there have been cases where the workers themselves sued the business owners for the business misclassifying them. And there were, groups of people who said, you should have known that we were
Dirty.
not independent contractors, that we didn't
That
qualify for that.
that's dirty. No, I
But
mean,
they have, and they have prevailed in many cases, um, into seven-figure settlements, and some even in the millions of dollars, because the business itself should have known that they were misclassifying the employees. And so the employees, here's what they said. They said, you said we were contractors. We spent, I'll make it in the context of home health, we spent time making direct care visits, but you never paid us for all the hours of documentation that we did at home,
mhm,
all
mhm,
the overtime that we spent, all the
mhm,
times that, we had to um, take training and pay for it out of our pocket because you misclassified us. You didn't provide that training for us. We had to
mhm.
go somewhere else and get it.
Yeah,
Anyway, so you can see that it's not just the IRS that's coming after you. It could be your employees, your
your
workers,
contractors, I
yeah,
guess.
coming after you and saying,
Ugh.
you should have known.
Well,
So
this sounds like enough to make you not wanna go into business, which is the terrible fallback on that, because if that's the case, then we're gonna be struggling. I mean, we already struggle to find frontline healthcare workers.
yes,
So, this
and
makes me upset.
yes, and right now we as an industry, just like most of the others, are really struggling because we've lost people for one reason or another, and it's hard to find people that you can just plug into your organization if you need to train people and get them up to speed, you really don't have a lot of time to do that right now.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of agencies that are struggling for frontline workers, and they can be tempted to put contracts in place just to have a body to go take care of these patients.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
tough.
it's a challenge, especially right now. It's a challenge.
Yeah, we're thinking about you. We're holding you dear to our hearts as we talk about this. Does not sound fun, but just kind of in summary, don't be grabbing your friend's contract, copy and pasting. Pay very close attention, do your due diligence, and then if it still seems worth it, proceed with caution.
Exactly.
All right.
Um, and and just again, just realize the IRS is not your friend. When they put out a quote friendly reminder, it should be taken as a warning, a serious warning. Um,
Yeah, because they
so,
had to pay postage for that, so they're serious.
if at all possible, whenever possible, I strongly urge home health agency owners to review their arrangements with the workers that they consider independent contractors. Look at some other options like a per diem employee or
Mhm, mhm,
a flat rate kind of arrangement for that includes the visit and the likely amount of time it will take for documentation, travel time, whatever you
mhm,
feel like you need to include in that flat rate. But, um, and some agencies have even said, we will only contract with you if we are able to take out your taxes before we give you your payment.
mhm,
Um, there's just so many things that need to be considered, and it's an area that's less understood by many of the small home health agency administrators and owners. So it's not a bad idea to also get legal counsel on how you might set up some kind of an arrangement if it's not a straight employee type arrangement.
mhm.
So if you decide to continue contracting for direct care services, again, my advice is just to really do your homework, um, get some legal counsel, and if you feel you must, then proceed with extreme caution.
All right, well, we've heard it 6 different ways now, and, everyone go out and do likewise. All
Okay.
right,
Any
awesome.
any comments and questions?
No, we
Be
got
happy to hear from
no
you.
no comments in the comment section, but, thank you for watching. We had a few viewers on today, and we appreciate your time, so spread the word. We'll see you next Friday.